what, I'll ask Phoebe, but I'm quite sure. Phoebe, maybe you may or may not know. Mr. Newton turned in his residential here.
I have to look back on it.
Yeah, I
I have
don't
to look back on the
remember,
email.
but I think he did.
So should I add his name to the roll?
Yes, please.
Do you have the spelling of it again?
Yeah. So Andy's working on it
Thanks.
How you doing, Mr. Hunt?
Hi, Mr. Hunt. How are you?
Good.
Time to give time, a little bit of time afterwards.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think it was
Absolutely.
Yes. Mr. Thomas only has a short amount of time. He has other issues afterwards, so I don't want to hold him up and I'm just waiting.
Don't try to find a replacement for her already.
Okay, thank you.
Don't.
No. Mr. Hunt, I am checking my email, but I'm quite sure that Mr. Newman is not.
It's fine.
Yeah.
He's here now.
He is? Okay. I won't miss it. Hey.
No. Here.
No, I misunderstood it because I thought it was always events.
Well, the event is the whole month of the expo.
Yeah. Okay, all
And
right.
that's why I talked to Joe about it, and then I talked to Bobby about it, to talk to him about it.
Oh, okay, okay.
After I
Okay.
mentioned and brought it up to you guys for
Yeah.
DDA.
So, all right, okay.
I
We'll-
mean,
we'll-
I mean, my God, there's not enough room for anybody to
I'm
come
sure
down
we'll
and
figure it all out.
and do anything.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
How you doing, Mr. Jackson? Good, good. I haven't heard back from, our person with that closing. You know, partial,
Ben asked me if you would drop this off.
Hopefully they work.
There
you go.
So he knows about it. He said you would drop it when you finish. Thank you. Where am I sitting?
Right there.
Next to you.
Yes.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Downtown redevelopment. Go with roll call.
Tibor Bank.
Present.
Pete Zan.
Here.
Cheryl Cook.
Here.
James Newman.
Here.
Jake Nicely. John Camchin.
Here.
Kenneth Hunt.
Present.
Javier Benavente.
Present.
And that's it for the roll call.
Great, excellent. Let's do our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great.
So you've moved from the audience to the board.
I have.
Life's good, moving on up.
Yeah.
All right. We all had time to take a look at the minutes from last month.
I did.
November 8th, any questions? Any concerns?
Were they not, I wasn't here, were they not allowed to be approved for the month before because we didn't have a quorum? So it
Right.
looked like nothing was really voted on?
That is correct.
So we're doing 2 months of minutes?
We actually need to, I guess you, not verify, but whatever you call it, when you're going to validate the previous, we voted, but we didn't have a quorum, so it didn't count.
So ratify.
Ratify, thank you. So we could ratify the previous month's minutes as well as approve last month's minutes. So move, just to get it going.
I'll second.
All right. All approved? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any against? All right, great. Do we have anyone doing the police report? This is going to be a quick meeting, I see, huh? Staff reports.
All right. So as far as with the staff report, we have the first item is the security update. Spoke with the city manager and he mentioned to propose to the board an 80-20 offer. So 80% the CRA will pay for and 20% the business owners will come up with the other percentage. We talked about a couple things where should we have police officers, and I provided the information as far as the cost, or unarmed security officers, and I also provided that information as well. So wanted to hear from the board on where you all stand concerning the 80-20 offer as far as paying for downtown security.
How do business owners pay for that? I mean, do you have to be on Beach Street? Because I don't remember getting a bill for anything.
So that would be, so not just on Beach Street, it would be for the entire downtown, business owners for downtown. And as far as coming up with the payment, I'll yield that over to Mr. Thomas.
Yes, it's for you all's consideration. We initially in the past, during one of our meetings, we gave you the information from the Esplanade on what the cost would be. But we've also had our police department to, allocate or at least determine how much it would cost for them. Now, of course, with the police department, it's a lot more. Our city police department and the Esplanade, of course, is probably, half, a quarter of that, or more so or less. So we all agree that there is a need for security services and everyone is on board. But what the city manager is proposing is that would you consider all of the businesses downtown consider paying 20% of that amount? And not sure how we would allocate that cost to every business owner, but 80% will come from this downtown CRA trust fund. The other 20, we're looking for, what we're proposing that the other 20 comes from just individual business owners. And we're looking for comments right now from everyone, what do you think about, that allocation?
Yeah, so I guess when the part of the discussion is, do we want to go with armed or unarmed, which is a big price difference there, and how often, the frequency and the time. So those are some things we have to decide on as well. That's going to make a difference.
And how necessary is it altogether?
True.
I have a question. The 20%, that cost is going to be based on what the spread is, and the question goes to what is a downtown business? Are you talking about the downtown redevelopment district boundary as defined those businesses all the way over to the railroad tracks, all the way up to Mason, I think it is?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, that's correct, the entire downtown area.
So the security would also, for example, occasionally on the frequencies that are decided upon by the board, go down Seabright, and where you have maybe some issues with loitering and things of that nature, every occasionally.
Yes, the entire downtown CRA will cover, the policing will cover that. That's mandated within the CRA. So anything that we pay for, that's what's considered innovative policing. So that has to cover that entire area, not just a beach street.
And the cost would be spread accordingly, so that I guess the burden wouldn't be shared just by the retail on beach.
This is an area that's already policed though by our police force. Is it for some reason like, is there any data that's going to show us that this area needs more? Or is just the conversations because there's more people down there?
No, that's a great question. So the difference would be detailed. This will be a detail. So not just normal policing day to day that they would cover for the entire city of Daytona Beach. So this is something that they will have to go in and say, yes, I would like to be on this detail to cover the downtown CRA area. And I do want to reiterate the cost. So if you're looking at the detail for policing downtown, is $45 an hour. During special events like Bike Week, you're looking at $65 an hour. And then there's also another pricing for other type of events that goes up a little bit more to the $80 an hour. That's in the ordinance. So I just want to paint that picture. Then if you're doing unarmed security, you're looking at $20 an hour. So that's the difference.
So I'm trying to get my head around it a little bit. The Esplanade in the park has security already?
Yes, sir. They have unarmed security. So what they have...
Esplanade or including the park all the way down to Orange Avenue?
No, just the Esplanade. And they have a walkie-talkie from the police department.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
They have 2 walkie-talkies.
Yes. So they have 2 walkie-talkies, and if anything happens, they are able to call over to the police department.
Okay. And they are armed, did you say?
They're unarmed.
Okay.
No.
I mean, I should hope a park doesn't have to be armed. And so then that's one area that's specific that we had some discussion already about that boundary, including the sidewalk on the west side of Beach Street, because that's all really tied in together. When I'm down there and there's an event, whether it's the nights or the food trucks, the food trucks are all pretty much on Magnolia. Farmers Market's way down south by Brown and Brown. That's a middle of the day event. Patty and I came over a night or two ago and just walked from Orange to ISB in the park, and it was awesome. Well lit, music, peaceful. Didn't see any ne'er-do-wells, whatever you want to say. So that's, your question was a real good one, or your point being brought up about the whole CRA goes out to Seagrave. So, big difference on on the security for that area. Now, also, if you take $20 to $65 an hour, that's per man, right? So if you got 10 men, you got $650 an hour. And if it's 10 hours, that's $6,500. And that's per event, for one special event. And let's say within the entire CRA, you've got 500 businesses. Well, if you split that all out, it's not going to be a lot. You're going to have a monthly fee. So before I would want to be approving something like that, number one, I'm in the district, so I'm going to be paying that bill. I'd like to see the specifics of how that price breaks down. And you can certainly do a spreadsheet of here's what happens if you have one unarmed man on security. Here's what happens if you have 10, and we could extrapolate that out easily enough. So we need to know the cost per man, what the typical time frame would be, say, per event. Maybe you've got 3 or 4 events per year that are bike week, race week, larger, where you'd have 4 guys on patrol or 10. I'm not sure they're necessary during the summer lights and the events on Beach Street. Maybe so. I mean, you guys that are on Beach Street are going to have a better perspective of that than I'm on the second floor on Palmetto. Nobody's going to come up there and bug me. So it's how those costs would be distributed, and that's how I analyze it as an engineer. What do you look at the cost? Well, who's going to pay for it? What's it for? And what would those costs be? And you've already put the cost number together, so you have that data. And then is it the entire CRA are we talking about, or are we talking about the Park and Beach Street? Because it seems as though the focus has been the Park and Beach Street. But when you bring up the point about the entire CRA, it's a new ballgame completely.
Paying, so they want to get the benefits.
Yeah.
We have to cover the entire CRA.
I mean, I can see that.
What also qualifies as a special event? Only because, like, for instance, I think every Friday they do the food trucks. Does that mean every Friday is a special event, or we're talking about?
You're saying as far as the price change?
Yeah.
That's a great question. So you're looking at Bike Week or your larger events. That's considered a special events according to.
Like attendance number, or how to, what is it?
Yes, attendance, and then I can provide the ordinance again to you all so you can see it outlined.
Well, don't the people who put on these events, don't they already pay for extra security as part of the event?
So yes, I was going to elaborate on that as well. So those events that you see outlined, they're already paying for that. But if you want additional, I want everybody to keep in mind detail. So outside of the normal activities of a police officer, when you're talking about having a designated officer for the downtown area, aside from the special events that always happen like Bike Week and all the events that are outlined in the downtown events that you all were given the previous month, you're talking about a designated detail officer to do innovating policing. That's the language that's used in the CRA, to do innovating policing downtown. So that's something separate. So to answer your question, Mr. Newman, yes, those events already have police in the budget, but if you want something designated for the downtown area, that's something totally separate.
Just to clarify, they would just be, what we're talking about, they'd be policing downtown, but everyone that we would be paying for it, so there'd be people who would be paying for it that would not be getting any benefits from it, just to clarify.
As far as with
With what we're talking about.
yes, so for the entire downtown area.
What they're talking about is, was it Seagrave or whatever, those people would be paying for this extra security, but the security stays on.
Yep.
No,
It's gotta
stays
be.
within the entire CRA.
Around the entire-
Yes.
It's just like CRA money. If it's drawn from the CRA district, whatever that district is, it's spread over the entire district. You can't pick and choose specific area. I mean, you're going to have those areas come up as they develop because somebody's going to come along and want to develop it, and not every area within the CRA wants to develop, but you can't.
That's
You
correct.
can't just focus your money in one spot.
Yes, it's the. Oh, go ahead. I just want to say that the entire area. Now, some areas might get more attention, like Mr. Zahn was saying, because the issue that was presented was the homelessness and having different people in certain areas. And it was some of the business owners were a little uncomfortable during the hours late at night, early in the morning when they're opening up their stores. So that window of time, yes, would get more attention, right? And so other areas that isn't much traffic, they won't get as much attention. But as far as the funding part, we have to fund that entire area, so the officer will cover the entire area.
Okay.
Did you have any comments?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please.
I've been being real quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, so this started with the DDA, and the DDA, to my knowledge, has recommended to use a private instead of the police. We were not 100% sure at that time if the city manager was going to be able to say that we could use CRA for private and not with the police, because it's almost 2.5 times as much money to use an armed police officer versus using what we use in the Esplanade to keep us downtown. So I don't know that answer has ever been answered to either of our two boards.
No, we answered that question at the board meeting. It was always known that we could use CRA funding for innovative policing.
Okay.
So, that's settled. But as Phoebe was saying earlier, it started with what you were saying, the homelessness. And the idea was that you would have someone patrolling the Beach Street area. But if you're going to utilize CRA money, which all of the property owners in that area pay, then you would want someone who is patrolling the area, not just only patrol Beach Street, but patrol the whole CRA in which the funds are coming from. So it is a tightrope.
I got a comment on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tightrope.
If I'm downtown and I'm paying in a substantial portion of the CRA money, I want to see some results for it. It's just exactly the same as if you're in a district in the county, and there's a road program going on. You want those roads where the money's being put in, and it just seems to me that we've got a focus that's on Beach Street versus everything else. So I'm at odds with that. I think you have more history than anybody.
We don't disagree with you.
Right. And we'll continue to hear from the other board members, and then we can decide which direction. Continue. You didn't finish.
So in the past, when we had we weren't doing DDA was not doing as many of the events and handling Alan doing all of the extra advertising that we were doing. The Downtown Development Authority had given money to the police to pay for officers down here. So when we had J.T. Thomas, he walked the beat, that we had 1 or 2 police officers that were on our beat at all times. We knew them, they had their bikes, they had their cars. So they were always checking on us. There are certain ones of our stores that have a scanner on them, so that when the police go by, they just would scan the outside of them and let us know that the police are at least out there walking and doing this at different hours. I don't think police is already there during special events, as you said. Al pays for it as part of his through the DDA. The city pays for it also as part of their contributions for our events downtown. What is happening, and it's not just on Beach Street, it's also on Magnolia. It is also on where CVS was and stuff like that. That's a lot of trouble that we have in our area. And that's why, unfortunately, DDA is hoping to be able to have money next year to try and do it also, to have extra help in our own area. But we're the ones that are having the homeless come into the store, the panhandlers, all that supposedly the law said we couldn't do anymore, or that we could still do and now we can't. I mean, that's just the main problem. you know, we're having a big event at the store right now. And I'm like, I'm paying for police tonight to be inside my store because I don't want these other people just coming. I mean, we at least have a buzzer, but we just don't want the people that are sleeping still behind the dumpsters to be able to just come and get our customers as they're walking out with packages. So there's still a problem downtown, and we just need, and the guys across the street are great if they see something, but that's not what they're paid to do. They're paid on the Esplanade. So I think that's what we were just all trying to do to
Gotcha.
get help.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Some more questions. What would the hours of operation be on this? Would it be 24 hours, or would it be just
It's
30 business hours?
probably what the board comes up with.
And does the Esplanade have overnight security after they lock up? Or are they just there during the day? during the opening hours?
Aren't they 24 hours?
I believe it is.
They're 24 hours. They have, I think, 4.5 officers that they pay for,
Oh, I'm not
or
sure.
3.5, yeah.
But I want to answer Mr. Newman's question about the hours of operation. When Captain Nikolai was here, he recommended that we can do either 3 to 5 days a week, or 6 days a week. And he thought maybe he would have someone early in the morning so that when the stores are open, someone would be there. And they would be there, I think, around lunchtime. They would leave after lunch, maybe at 2 o'clock or so, and come back before dinner. And be there until, you know, the stores close. The avenue closes, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And that would be sort of the routine. So early morning, leave just after lunch, come back before dinner, stay after, you know, 8, 9 o'clock.
They'd be working a split shift then?
Yes.
Depending on when the activity's the highest, I guess.
Yeah, and see, the special events are separate. I would put,
Right.
I would put that to the side for a second and just deal with what's happening every day.
Okay.
And so, as Ms. Cook was saying, it came about because of the homelessness. So we're trying to type a problem that we're having just on Beach Street. But technically, the money comes from the CRA. So when you're talking about utilizing the city's police department, yes, they will walk the beat on Beach Street, but they'll patrol the whole CRA, which would be different from what their riverfront security does. You know, they only cover the riverfront, and we want someone to extenuate or extinguish the problem on Beach Street, but we'll be really looking for them to cover the whole CRA, the private security I'm speaking of. I don't know if that's possible.
And
Got a question for you on CRA funds. So if I remember it right, the taxes were established at a certain time, then any growth past that goes into the CRA funds. So the source of that would be, for instance, I'm leasing my office space. I don't see a bill, except for my rent from my the guy that owns the building. But then he's going to get a tax bill, and in that tax bill, just like the tax bill we get at home, here's a breakdown of mosquito control and da-da-da-da-da-da. And so out of that is an allocation for CRA. Is that, and that's the source of the funds? Okay. So what we're talking about is a special assessment of some kind? I mean, how are these, let's say every business in the CRA pays $1. How do you pay it? What's the vehicle for billing that and paying it?
We don't have a mechanism at the moment. This is a suggestion that we look at 20% of all the businesses to cover. But you're absolutely right. The property owners right now, they pay into the trust fund, not the lessees, but the actual property owners. So if there was we'll bring this back to you. If there was if you're saying, let's see what the numbers look like, we'll certainly bring that back to you. If we have to do an assessment of all of the property owners in the CRA paying $1, we can determine this is what the cost will be. Or if we looked at, hey, let's stay on Beach Street, what would be the cost just to stay on Beach Street with the private security?
Can you do
What would
that? Can you
cost?
set up a district within the CRA that's,
We wouldn't because the statute that we have won't allow us to create another sub-trust fund.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I wanted to go back to the hours. Go ahead.
Allocation of this, paying this 20%, are you looking at just a flat fee for each business individually, or are you looking to allocate them according to
Oh, that's a good point, very good point.
to their income and
Yeah.
and how they do business? Because it may turn out to be a hardship for some of those businesses if it's very much.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Right now, the CRA, what you pay in the CRA is based on the valuation of your property. So that would be a tremendous, staffing. Of course, I believe there's a mechanism where you can, I don't know right now, but I believe the tax collector could determine if, based on your valuation of your property, what would be the cost if we had to pay for private security, what would be the cost based on the valuation of the property? We probably can get that, but it would probably take a while.
Also, before we get to that part, we need to know how often you want security, because we have to determine a price, a price point. So if you say only 3 times a week, then we can go from there as far as determining how much that 20% is.
Can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
If I was doing a basis of estimate, I would just do exactly that. I would say, what is armed security privately provided or armed security publicly provided to an officer or unarmed, both of those options, to cover one full day of one person? And then with that number, I could probably, and the board members,
Extrapolate.
kind of get an idea of how much you'd be willing to need for that. So it's kind of like, cart before the horse. Kind of needs some guidance on what the costs are to be able to say, well, what kind of coverage do we want? What can we afford is really what it's going to come down to, correct?
Yeah, that's part of it. And I think there are 3 things.
Well, that's how you distribute the effort, because some places are quieter than other places, and it's sure the whole CRA isn't, but there's got to be some type of plan as to how, how are the patrols structured, that type of thing, which I think is
Right.
easy to do, but I think that's one of the things that you all would be concerned about, is like, how often do you want people to go down, South Palmetto versus Seagrove or Beach Street? That's the question.
Right. And also, it just goes back down to how often you want it. We did that. I provided that information in the previous meeting of the cost and the breakdowns. But I as far as more, I want to know how often you all want the security, and then we can be able to move forward gauging as far as a price.
Right, so I see 3 things that we can probably get accomplished at this board meeting. If we can determine whether or not we want armed or unarmed, hours of operation, maybe from 8 a.m. to noon, and then maybe 8 p.m. to midnight, we can probably determine that, as well as how many days of the week. Think we can at least have that discussion and get that portion resolved?
Results, like for instance, one would be 3 days a week, or one every day of the week. At least two different choices, that kind of thing.
Yeah, at least we can narrow.
Yeah, whatever.
At least we can narrow it down to get a consensus, and then we can start talking dollars and cents. So we can determine what the cost will be based on the frequency of the officer, whether it's armed or unarmed. So is it necessary to have an armed, or can we just go with unarmed?
It seems like we have a lot of questions as far as security. I don't even know what standard security is. Is it 3 days a week? Is it every day of the week? I'm not quite sure.
So whatever you
If I were to
want.
spend a half hour online, we could find a lot more information about, instead of, inventing the wheel, seeing what examples there are.
So the example as far as unarmed security would be just right across the street at the Esplanade. So it's what you all desire. What is it that you want? Do you want to have unarmed security? Keep in mind, if they're unarmed, they will have a walkie-talkie. If something happens, they'll call over to the police station, and then you would gauge as about what time the police officers will come over to that area. If you have an officer that's armed, they're already there, they're able to handle the situation at that moment if something escalates. So you'll be able to gauge if you want them 24/7, that's an option.
So
It's-
using them as a model, they have
Yeah.
unarmed 24 hours, right?
That's
Let's
correct.
see what that costs us.
Okay. Well, how often?
7 days a week.
Okay.
I mean, my problem is I have no
So you
clue.
want 7 days a week?
Modeling it off of, kind of mirroring what they have.
Okay, so 7 days a week, all day, 24/7, pretty much. Is that everybody's
That's what they
proposal?
have going on over there.
That's correct, sir. Yes.
So that's an option of having unarmed 24/7, 7 days a week.
Yeah, everything's an option, we just gotta figure out what we want to pick.
Right, exactly. So do we want to even consider having an armed one? If not, we can remove that off the table and just complement what Brown and Brown is doing.
I think for the cost at this point, I would say unarmed.
I hate to think that we need to have armed security walking up and down Beach Street. I was born and raised here, and I've been going up and down Beach Street all my life. And I've never been accosted. Never. I haven't run into it down there. When I'm going to Cook Jewelers, I've never had anybody bug me about it. When I go to dinner at Little Italy over here and sitting out on the street, nobody's bugging me. So I don't see the problem because I'm not involved in it. I don't have it. My office, I'm driving in, I would say 2 times a week, there's a cop or 2 parked in the parking garage in my office building. That's where they like to hang out. Works good for me. I mean, there's just nice presence. But as far as the whole security issue, I have totally got to rely on Cheryl primarily, because you're down there. Jim, you're down there at the museum, right? And so you're on the street and you see what's going on and you're involved in it. We went to Art Festival Copperline. Well, I guess that's too busy a time for the transients to be in there. So we didn't see anybody or get accosted or run into a problem with it. I see them every morning when I'm coming behind Jackie Robinson. There are about 6 regulars now on the middle of the bridge. They're not there at 5 or 6 when I'm going home. And they're not on Beach Street. So I'm not impacted by the problem.
If there are other people that feel it's more problem than myself, I
know.
want them to be protected and feel safe as well.
That's why your DDA is close to it. We're not.
Yeah,
I'm
because it affects more of us, and we're downtown. The person that sees it the worst is Nancy Kiefer and the chamber staff. Since they moved across the street, they said, Nancy has said to me, what a difference a couple blocks from where the chamber was underneath the bridge to where they are. All the people that are at that 7-Eleven, all the ones that were by SunTrust, it's Truist, all of that. She's amazed every morning because she goes in early and sees it there.
So I've been on that corner for more than 10 years, and I know that there's people that are around there and stuff like that, but I think in the grand scale, I'm just only speaking from my experience, I've never had a problem. So
And you're right there.
Yeah, right, in between both those sides.
I mean, I've seen them on the corners, right across from Jimmy John's.
They're definitely there.
Yeah, they're there.
People that are hanging out.
Okay, yeah.
They do harass your customers as they're going in.
Okay.
Not always, but when there's a bunch of people there, I'm always very.
So there's one business, 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a bad spot. As far as.
But we're talking about the entire CRA, and we're talking about 7-Eleven having a problem.
Well, there are a number of other places you see, particularly where that's a spot where people hang out regularly.
For sure.
And they intimidate some people trying to come into your business. Up and down Beach Street, I see it all the time.
So one of the questions that we're looking at is, do we need armed or unarmed?
That's what I was going to ask a question to you, because you were right. I didn't know that area, and I walk my dog there mornings and evenings, and I've seen the same situation. I question whether we would need a gun to resolve
I
those.
don't think so. When I've had problems at the museum, very often I can just go tell people to move, please move on.
And I think,
And they usually will.
The badge,
in my experience,
the sign of authority.
You feel comfortable having an
Oh, very
unarmed?
much so, very much so,
Okay.
because I think Chief Young would definitely let us have that person or persons have another scanner, that all they have to do is get on. If you try, if any of you have ever tried the non-emergency
Oh, my God.
number, you might as well. I've driven all the way to Ormond while I've been on hold. I've been into my condo, I've sat there for 30 minutes, and I still have nobody on as the police. It's pathetic that we can't get, because they're doing the whole county, and why we can't get our police back. So the non-emergency number, they've even told us downtown, if you've got a problem, call the emergency number at least. We used to at least have the patrol, the offices over on Harvey and other places that we could call their numbers, because if they had somebody in doing paperwork or something, they could come out. We don't have any of that anymore.
Great, so I think everyone's feeling comfortable on the unarmed side of things. Let's take a look at the days of the week. If we didn't go all the way with 7 days a week, which days of the week do we think would be important to have security?
Friday, Saturday?
I don't think, there's not enough businesses that are open on Sunday anymore down there. We don't have the church super block that had all the issues with the homeless and stuff that were always there when they're out. I think you've got to, I don't see that you need 7 days. I kind of agree that the morning sweep was really nice when the police would go through. They caught robbers going into our store with the morning sweep years ago. And so I think that to get those people out of the alcoves from sleeping and from doing whatever else they're doing in them.
But when you say the morning sweeps, are we looking at which
5
days of the week?
5 days, 6
For the
days.
morning sweep?
Well, during the week,
Monday through
weekdays.
Friday.
Monday to Saturday?
Monday through, well, there's more of us that are not open on Saturdays than are open on Saturdays, actually on Beach Street. It's getting better right at the time now that more are open on Saturdays. So I think you still have to have through Saturday. I don't think enough on Sunday that would warrant.
A lot of businesses are closed on Mondays though, but there are still a few open.
Yeah, if we
So
had to
maybe a
go-
Tuesday through Saturday?
Saturday might be a good thing.
So should we
Well,
consider?
the restaurants are open
So should we consider?
on Monday.
All of them.
How many to have to be open for it to
Finding
count?
some place to eat downtown on Monday. The little Ichi Nissan doesn't open on Monday. I don't think Little
How about
Italy's
Copperline?
open on Monday. McCase's is open.
Yeah, and they're wide open, their doors are wide open, and Senoritas, our guys eat lunch over there, we eat lunch at Zen.
So what if we considered a Tuesday through Saturday? We could do the morning sweep from maybe 8 until noon. So that's 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., well, 8 a.m. to noon, and then come back again for another 4 hours, 8 p.m. to midnight.
I would have an issue with that, just because I think that they're down there knowing that we have so many people going into the restaurants from like 11 to 1. So I wouldn't think that you got them out at noon. I think you'd give them out if the sweeps will even start at 8, be out by like 10:30 or even 10. And then if they're going somewhere else in the city, I've been doing that. And then coming back in the area from 11:30, when there's a lot of ladies that come, when there's a lot of men that come and are eating in the restaurants you started 11:30 with getting people in your store, with your
We
restaurant.
go at 11 to 3 is our lunch time. So.
Yeah, so I think the lunchtime is when a lot of people, they've gone shopping, they've gone to get something to eat, and then they've got bags, and that's when they're more approached.
How early in the morning should we start?
Mr. Chair, if I may, speaking with the officers, they suggested starting at 7 a.m. because that's when the business owners they're able to be there prior to the business owners opening their stores. So they're able to clear out prior to.
So if we're saying 7 a.m. to 1, but then we still need that late night surveillance as well.
Actually, 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Because
Well, 7 to-
you're doing a sweep in the morning. 7 is when everybody's waking up down there, and they're moving them along. By 10, they've done what they need to do. By 11:30, the lunch crowd is coming back in, and it's getting busy. The civilians are, so you've got a need between 11:30 and 1:30, 2?
So that's an hour and a half break?
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, you're looking at prime time, and then what do you do with it, you know?
I don't
Because,
think you need to do it till 10. I think if you even get it till 9, 9:30, because
Okay.
once they've gotten away and they've seen that they're not welcomed, that are down there, then, you know, because like, do you open at 10? Or what time do you?
I go in at 9, we open at 10. yeah.
Okay, so we get there at 8:30 and open at 9:30. So, and some of the other restaurants don't open as early as that. They don't open.
But
till
employees are
11 on
there
Beach Street
getting
anyway.
ready.
Some are
Getting there
open
like
for
9
breakfast,
o'clock.
but
yeah,
All right, so from here at 7 a.m. to 9, 11 to 2, and 9 to midnight. That sums up 8 hours.
do we need them till midnight?
Yes.
You're saying
There
that?
are restaurants downtown. There's some events that are taking place on Palmetto. They go till midnight, so a lot of traffic's taking place there, as well as on Beach Street with some of the restaurants and entertainment. Like some of the Italian restaurants are out there, McKay's,
Okay.
Ichi Nissan, Zanzibar Blue. You know, all
So even if
this
they're
is
closed
some-
at 11, there's still people hanging around, so till midnight,
Yeah,
just to
and
kind of
we're
keep it
talking
on.
downtown, and the community have
Yeah,
been wanting
yeah,
something to do, so they're
Okay.
oftentimes out a little later.
Yeah.
So that provides a good sweep of time for an 8-hour clock, taking care of the early morning portion from 7 a.m. to 9, that's 2 hours. And then from 11 to 2, which will take care of the lunch crowd, that's 3 hours. And then 9 p.m. to midnight will pretty much take care of the other 3.
8 hours.
Yeah, so that's an 8 hour. So we've
That's
talked
good.
about, so we've covered unarmed is sufficient. And then as far as the hours of operations, that's something to consider what we just summarized. And then we just have to determine the days of the week. And one proposal was a Tuesday through Saturday. So
6 days.
I was saying Monday to Saturday.
Monday through Saturday.
I don't think that's going to be a big deal, because if you can take that data and put it together, we can extrapolate out, we can drop a day and see what the cost, and I don't think that's going to be a significant number.
oh, yeah, like.
And we won't know until there's a little bit of presence in the neighborhood anyway. I mean, it's not like they're gonna be like, oh, today's our day to hit it. They're not here today on Monday.
Yeah, right.
So we're saying Monday through Saturday?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so I think we sort of narrowed it down. Something, if we propose those times, dates for an unarmed police officer or unarmed security, then we can get a basis for what that cost will be. And then, once that's brought back to us, then we can vote on that to determine whether or not that's feasible, and then determine what the 80-20, how that'll
Yeah.
lay out for us all.
Yeah.
Would it also be possible to get some ideas on options in terms of the mechanism for funding? And the staff maybe discuss that amongst themselves and see what.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. That'll be an interesting problem for you.
The wider the base, the better, in my opinion.
The what?
The wider the base, I think everyone benefits from this policy.
What I like about the base is the wider the base is, the lower the cost per individual. However, there's going to be a higher percentage that are paying something for nothing, essentially.
That's the argument. It's not nothing. That's the argument. Is that
Yeah.
It really is. We all benefit from the economic development.
Sure, we do. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so do we need to make a motion to vote on those items, or do we just need to just discuss it, have it available for you, and then you come back with? So what?
I think it's just a discussion that
Okay, great,
we've come to conclusion.
great.
We'll come back at the next
Right.
meeting and have some
Mhm.
results for you.
Because there's anything to really
Talk about.
Okay.
act on.
So what we like to present is an unarmed, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and then the hours that we mentioned, 7 to 9, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then 9 p.m. till midnight. Something to consider. And then we can get those numbers back and move forward from there. Okay? All right, great. So that takes care of the security update. Whew. All right, traffic flow update.
All right. So, traffic flow update. So, the first item we're looking at the beautification project. I know that was a couple questions were mentioned about what does that look like. So, speaking to David Waller from Public Works, he mentioned about the street where, because the street that was proposed as far as a question was from Ridgewood so MMB and Ridgewood crossing over up until Beach Street. The issue was the roads would be narrow, the sidewalks are widened, and that was eliminating the public parking. The reason being is because the commission suggested that the public parking wasn't necessary on that street, and it was better for the flow for pedestrians to have a wider sidewalk, and then having the road organically being that you have a wider sidewalk, the streets will be a little bit more narrow for traffic flow. So that's, to answer that question, that was what Public Works mentioned.
Okay, and there was a comment made on that suggestion. There's a business there that's going to require parking, and then there was a conversation that was brought up with Public Works, how they were going to address that. With the widening of the sidewalks, it would really eliminate all the parking there, but there's a business there that requires parking, so we're still waiting for feedback from that.
So yes, I understand, sir. And so that was the feedback that I was provided. And yes,
that is just gonna happen anyway.
Yes, it's already,
Okay.
because the commission voted and that's what they want to have.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
It's done.
So this is
So-
MLB from Ridgewood down to Beach.
yes, sir.
All right. Next.
Reason being, I can give you a little bit of backstory in short, was people were parking and hanging out in that area, and it was causing some traffic flow challenges. So to eliminate that, that was the suggestion, to narrow the road, widen the sidewalks for better traffic flow for pedestrians and not having the hangout area. Any other questions?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So, and the beautification project will go all the way up into Michigan Avenue, and it won't stop. Let's see. It will go up to Michigan Avenue, and as far as Fairview, that is the state road. So that's something in the future that they will have a future project, and as far as changing that, suggesting possibly having a roundabout in that area. The next item for the traffic flow is a traffic light. It was a suggestion to have the intersection of Bay and Palmetto, requesting to remove the traffic light and have a four-way stop. The example was Magnolia and Palmetto, having that same four-way stop to pretty much mirror that same flow on in Bay and Palmetto. So that was a suggestion. I did talk to David Waller, and he mentioned that he would have to do a traffic flow study to see what would be suggested. So the two options would be a four-way stop or a roundabout. Okay? Any questions on that?
Isn't that going to mainly be determined if that building ever gets repaired, if that parking garage ever gets repaired that's right there also? I mean, that's major that they don't have those people in there anymore with that parking garage, and it's still under, they've got all the other on Bay, they have all of that other parking taken away right now because of working on it. So right now it's not a really big deal. But what happens if that parking garage ever gets usable again? Or, they all aren't going to go north.
Right, that's a great question, and that's something I will take back and ask about, and that's something also that they would do in their study to see all options, and then once they have that, I'll be able to present it to you as well. All right, something else that as far as with the traffic flow, if you all will look in your package, you will see some options for street signs. This is something that I wanted to propose, is having, just to identify downtown. We're making downtown even more beautiful as the days progress, and having some type of identification for our downtown CRA area. So if you can look there, there's some options. Just to give you a visual of having a sign on top that says downtown, and then it's connected to the streets. So the options would be having it on every cross street, or the street ID areas, or having it coming into a boundary. So that's something that you all would help come up with as far as where do you want to see these markers. So this is an option for you all if you would like to have this, or if this is something that you're interested in. Other areas in the historic areas throughout Daytona Beach, they are proposing something like this as well.
What do you mean by street ID areas?
So where it identifies that this area has a college, this area has a museum, all of that type of, those are considered street ID areas. So large or more attraction areas, for example, you would have a street ID that says City Hall, courthouse, or park, or something like that. Those are considered street ID signs.
Don't we have something like that now?
Yes, we do. So we would just add on to what's existing.
Okay. I like the, I see Sanford Historic District, and they have a nice little downtown that's a few blocks, but it's I think it would be established. I don't know. I mean, you know, we could have Midtown, we could have downtown Daytona. I'm not sure what those districts. I like the idea of having you're entering the Midtown Historic District, or downtown Daytona, established 1895 or something like that. And then at least a minimum on every street corner. I like to know where I am and see street signs on each corner. It's just, I see you have several different styles.
You said there's other projects around town that are working on this same type of thing.
It was just suggested on the historical areas. They wanted to, because the biggest thing is we want to identify every part of our city.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
For me, I think I like consistency with those other ones, so it's not like all, random.
Well, consistency would be great, but you have to keep in mind every area has its own identity.
So you want it to stand apart.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and when I go to other small cities, whether it's New Smyrna Beach, DeLand, even South Daytona, as I was driving at night, and I saw all the trees, they were lit up, there were lights. As soon as you cross over Bevel, it got dark again. And I'm like, wow, I'm in Daytona Beach, and it's like, I go to South Daytona, it was all bright, nice, and
They took all the lines underground
yeah.
in South Daytona.
Yeah, that's what it took. So just little things like that. So I think, accenting our streets in our departments or districts would be a nice touch for the Daytona area.
Yeah.
I think it's long overdue, and if not within our CRA, but I'd like to see it all over town, including some of the historic neighborhoods.
Right.
Midway, Newtown, Kingston, Ortona, these were all separate areas at one time.
Ocean Dunes.
Yeah, Ocean Dunes, Seaside Village,
That's where
they
I
have
am.
their flags, but
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and it should be done citywide.
Okay, awesome. And just wanted to add, as we progress with the development, on the redevelopment side throughout the CRA, we will eventually start telling more of a story of what's going on throughout every area. So our citizens or visitors will be able to know and identify and connect with the jewel that we have here. Okay? All right. That's all that I have for that item.
I noticed there was a meet and greet.
Oh,
in the
sorry,
packet.
one more item. My apologies. One more item. So we are looking, another item is The county parking? So the county parking was suggested by Mrs. Cook was to have that available for the Esplanade holiday events because there's a need for parking. So we're in the process of speaking with the city manager as well as county to see how we can utilize that area so we can have more parking, because the goal is to have people go to the area and enjoy the festivities, but then if we don't have enough parking, that's a challenge, and that will detour people from enjoying the beautiful work that has been done. So I'm in the process of speaking with them, and I'll have an answer to you also.
For which parking are we talking about?
The county parking, that is,
Next to Indian, where the old Sears was, their county that
Oh, yeah,
got
gotcha.
torn down,
Okay.
that they put
I
grass
gotcha.
up immediately.
Big vacant lot.
And that grass was
Yeah.
there in a
Correct.
week. So obviously, if we use it, I mean, if it doesn't get done soon, let's wait till next December when the Esplanade really needs it for all the Christmas events, which is why at the DDA, we brought it up 3 weeks ago, because we were like, you got all these people, they're coming down to see all the lights, it's beautiful, you've got Santa Claus down there, they have events almost so many nights. And so, you know, it's already been going since
Yeah, we're already starting to
before.
feel the squeeze of the parking downtown, with it getting just slightly more popular.
I noticed over there by the library behind Jackie Robinson, I go, man, what's going on? And I realized that they're just coming downtown. And there isn't anything like that up at the north end by Brown and Brown, so that lot would be perfect for that.
They're also parking in the lot behind McCade's too.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That's full during different events.
That fills up quick.
Well, that's where we want them to park.
End of year business items?
okay. So speaking with the chair, he wanted to really highlight that at the end of the year, and just as a reminder for business owners, that there's a closeout, making sure that you prepare your documents for the upcoming year. So that is the annual filings, making sure you have the closeout for your books, and any questions that you have on the city side as far as renewing any type of licenses or any type of, annual filings, any type of, all those closeout, end of year closeouts, that is something that I just wanted to do as a gentle reminder.
Also, I noticed in the packet, thank you for that, Phoebe, there was a meet and greet that was in the packet.
Yes. So I'm hosting a meet and greet to introduce myself as the new project manager for the downtown area and also the Blue area, so the Blue Road area. So I wanted to do that just because I feel like it's important to personally, face-to-face, meet everyone, talk about the new things that are on the horizon, as well as have a better understanding what CRA is, because I did a walk throughout the downtown CRA as well as the Blue Road CRA. And a lot of the business owners didn't even know that we offered funding. They didn't know that we offered grant funding. They didn't know what CRA was. So I wanted to have an opportunity to put a face with a name versus me just calling and emailing and sending things out. I wanted to have just a meet and greet and talk to everyone, shake hands. And then also the refreshments is a taste of downtown. I feel like it's important as a business owner to showcase what's around you. So we will have some refreshments there. It will be a little taste of downtown, and some of the business owners wanted to participate in the meet and greet, and that's pretty much it. That's all. Any questions that you all have, I'll be able to answer that, and just to get together before the end of the year.
And when is that?
That's this Thursday at 6 o'clock at the Cinematique.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then we have a new board member.
Yes.
We're all familiar with already.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Javier Benavente, 614 South Beach Street, you've heard that before.
Can you use your mic, please, sir?
Pardon?
Can you turn your mic on?
Sure. A little bit about myself. I'm a systems engineer, aerospace industry by education. Pretty much business development, enterprise development, program management by trade. Most of my clients are aerospace, defense companies, but UCF is also a client. We're I'm managing a science program for them. We're going to do a little lunar rover thing that's going to launch in, well, if NASA stays on schedule, 2026. And then I also have some clients in the Orlando area. I do a lot of governance work, but mostly in federal contracting. So working in a municipality was, in that environment was kind of interesting because I don't know anything about it, so it's something to learn. But I have a real interest in seeing Daytona Beach grow. And I just see all the work that y'all have done down here in downtown, and it's like, you show up at the right time and take advantage of all your work, but continue it on. And that's what I think the ability to grow here is really nice. And I think fundamentally, it's a matter of taking what you've developed along Beach Street and pushing it out. And it's going to take a decade to do it, but you can get there.
All right.
It'd be really interesting to see it.
Thank you.
Maybe less, maybe 5 years.
Yeah, we're shooting for 5,
How
5
long
to
do you have
7.
a CRA?
Yeah, then you burn out.
5 to 7, so. All right, thank you. Any public comments? Okay, great. Any board comments?
No, I'm wondering, you mentioned Beach Street and push it out. How much influence does Beachside and pushing it out have? Because there's a lot of big money going into hotels and developments on Atlantic Avenue. That's drawing the people in that we want to entice to downtown. So that's a part of it as well. We get so focused on Beach Street. I live beachside, so I drive up and down Atlantic a lot. The Shores is really they had a bunch of enterprise things they were doing to help people. There was an old putt-putt down there that's now being redone. There's all kinds of new buildings, and it seems like every single one is pastel t-shirt shop. So there must be some money in it. But I guess the point was, how are you all, or are you, considering the impact of Beachside to Beach Street? That might be something DDA's talked about. I bet it has.
It's a good question, Pete, but I can tell you, Angela Armstrong is her focus is on the beach side. And you are right, there needs to be a connection between the downtown and the folks who come and visit us and they spend time out on the beach side. Now, I can tell you that DEA certainly has all of our downtown brochures at all of the hotels. So we keep an ongoing marketing effort to make sure that if you visit Daytona Beach, that you know what's going on in our downtown area. And Esplanade, of course, contributes to that as well with the information. Now, the other thing that we're working on is we got to change the way that we look on the beach side too as well. So there are properties on the west side of Atlantic that needs a lot of work, and we've made some attempts to acquire some of those properties on Atlantic Avenue, going north and going south down to Silver Beach, because we also have a beachside CRA too as well.
So you're actually redevelopment, you're everywhere, not just, this is just the downtown board, but, okay.
Yeah. And Angela's working on a proposal now to come before the beachside CRA to, when I talk about change the way that we look, meaning that we want to contribute toward our businesses who are on the beach side to change their exterior look. And so we would hire someone who is an architect engineer to give us a design on how we can change the exterior of the building. And once those plans are done, we also want the property owner to commit to fulfilling the plan, not just because we could spend upwards of $20,000+ on an exterior elevation, the change of it, and it just sits there. So part of our proposal is that we want you to commit to making the changes, and we're also going to contribute toward the construction portion too as well, with our CRA dollars.
Any other board comments? Meeting adjourned.